Okay, hi everyone, this is Smithy Q, smithyq.com. I'm here with another video analysis, and this is going to be the first in, well, hopefully this doesn't become a series, but videos of why I lose chess games, right? I'm not perfect, I'm not a master, I'm not, I lose games. I'm playing chess for a long time, but I make mistakes, I lose. And it's important in chess, I feel, to really remain humble. So that way, you can recognize that. A lot of immature chess players, the lower rated ones, are very quick to make excuses for why they lose, right? So, it's because, it was a tricky opening, or, I just made a blunder, or the end game, I made a couple mistakes. And they blame other things instead of themselves. Of course, in chess, you're the only one playing, right? It's all on you, which is great, because that means when you win, it's 100% you, right? You can take all the glory. But the same thing, when you lose, you gotta take 100% the blame. So that's what I'm gonna do here today. I'm going to look at this game. I want to look at it, quite deeply, because I lost in 24 moves. So something bad must have happened, right? Something terrible. And it's actually, I don't know if this is funny or not. I looked at the game, quite deeply. I looked at it with the computer, and it's like, my first 17, 18 moves are all practically perfect, right? And yet I still lose in 24 moves, which means there's that 5-move window where something terrible happened. I need to figure out what it is and improve on that. So let's take a look. Let's look at this game. I guess I'm rated only 2100 now. My opponent was 1900, and he's a King's Indian attack player. That's what he likes to play. Knight f3, knight f6. He was white. You know what? Let's look at it from White's perspective. That's fine. Here he played d3. Might be premature. I played knight c6, so that way I could meet e4 with e5, and I've got a beautiful position. If we just go back for a second, the King's Indian attack, it generally works best against, for instance, the French defense-like setups. So if we just imagine a different opening, if we imagine something like this, right? This will lead to the same general position, but White has the option of always playing e5, and then he gets a pretty easy attack, right? Or White's play becomes very thematic, right? He advances his pawns, something like this, his pieces come around, and in general, White's plan is very easy. If you look at the position here, where I played knight c6, the idea is I want to play e5. That's exactly what happens. He plays e4, e5, and now White doesn't have his very easy plan. And in fact, if you look at it, White has just played an inferior move. He's played d3, which it does nothing, right? It's like a reverse Philidor's defense. Color's reversed. It's just blocking this bishop. Black's already equal. Black is doing absolutely fantastic. If we go back, oddly, the move that I was most worried about, or I don't know if worry is the right word, was for him to play d4 here. The idea of perhaps playing d5, kicking my knight away. He's controlling the center, right? And if we ever play something like this, we get a strange position. You can even go like this. We've got like a London-ish, system-ish idea. But the knight's on c6. Is the knight good on c6? It's hard to say. Black is doing better than the main lines, but is he doing a lot better? Not really. And I wasn't 100% eager to play this position, so I was quite happy my opponent did not do that. So again, after knight f6, d3, knight c6, e4, e5. Here we go. So he continued with his full King's Indian attack idea, which is fine. Bishop c5, bishop g2, and here I had a choice. I could have played, I ended up playing d6. I could have played d5 in one go. And you have to wonder, like, when is it time to do this? And I could do it. I honestly could. The thing is, if we look at this, is that now this bishop is on an open diagonal. Black has more space, black has more activity, but it's open. And also, after White castles, he's got the rook e1 coming, and this pawn, it might be weak. It could be. There's there's pressure against it. If I'm forced to play f6 to defend it, then I'm not very happy. If instead of rushing to play d5, because there's not much, white can't stop it unless he wants to do something silly like c4, which is just going to ruin his structure, I could just play d6. Finish my development, get all my pieces ready, and then play d5. Simple. Notice how this bishop is staring at its own pawn, and it will keep staring. It will remain inactive until I play d5. So, why rush, right? That's it. My opponent castled. I played bishop e6. And here is... I might have rushed this move. I didn't need to play it so quickly. The idea of bishop e6, is that I want to play queen d7, and then I've got this battery here. And the idea isn't necessarily to exchange bishops, because again, this bishop is staring at its pawn. I don't really care about the about this bishop right now. It's not important. The real pressure is this bishop staring here down there. If, for instance, the main idea of the king's any attack, in general, is to get this f-pawn pushed, right? So white will do something like this, and like this. Gets the pawn going, right? That's the idea. This bishop is pinning the pawn, and so he can't, the pawn can't move. And if I can get knight g4 coming in, now my knight's attacking the pawn, the bishop's attacking the pawn, and it's going to be very difficult for white to rearrange himself in such a way to get that pawn break in. And if he can't do that pawn break, he's not really doing anything. Or he's not doing anything he wants to do. That's the whole reason you play the king's any attack, is to get f4, f5 in. So the whole point here is that if white doesn't play h3, if you're to play something else, I don't know, a3. a3, aha, all right? And I can get queen d7 in. Now he can't play h3. And if he can't play h3, then he can't stop knight g4, right? So for instance, if he tries to move his king, so that way now his f-pawn isn't pinned, knight g4, attacking the pawn. If he's forced to do something like this, right? Well, that's going to lose a pawn, obviously, right? He doesn't want to move his king over. It's a very uncomfortable position for white. That was the idea behind this move, bishop e6. However, bishop e6, it opens itself up to potential knight g4 ideas, but more importantly, it's got c3, d4, and then maybe d5 coming in, right? This is actually what happens in the game. So white plays c3, and now I have to spend a tempo to play bishop d6, because if I just do my normal moves, oh shoot, I walk into a pin. So this is the downside of playing bishop e6. Is that it allows d4 and d5 to increase in priority. What could I have done instead? I could have castled, see what white does. Because, for instance, if I castle, then he plays c3, well, obviously I don't put my bishop on e6. I can go somewhere else. Maybe I go on g5, d7, maybe I just do something else, right? But it doesn't force me to lose a tempo with bishop d6 like it does in the game. Alternatively, I think perhaps the best move is a5. This does two things. One, it allows my bishop all the way back here to a7, potentially, which is great, but it's also going to give me some queenside play. So that way I could play b5, b4, a4, and I can just sort of play around on this side. I'm also stopping white from ever advancing on here, because white had the option, we can look at that in a second, actually, of what white could have done. So if I had this position again, I think I would have played a5, or maybe I castle first and then play a5. It'd be something along this. I don't need to rush this bishop e6 idea. So again, back to the game. I played bishop e6, c3. The threat is d4 and then d5. And so the only way to stop that is to move a piece. So move my bishop out of the way. And now he plays knight b d2. And I guess, again, white has the standard king's any attack position, but it's not... It shouldn't be anything here in this position. And it isn't. It's already, the computer says black has, you know, symbolic advantage. And that makes sense if you just look at the pieces, right? My bishops are on 2 great squares, my knights are on their 2 best squares, I got a strong center. White's bishop is staring at its pawn, this bishop is staring at a knight, this knight's not on the ideal c3 square. One thing, a potential idea, if we go back, is instead of playing c3, another option would be to do what's called the Gleck system, where you play, here we go, with knight c3 here. And this is a variation of the 4 knights. I played this quite a bit, actually, back in the day. This was my main defense against the Petrov defense, so, sorry. If my opponent played this, which was always, I always consider these positions boring. I'd go knight c3, knight c6, then I'd play this, g3. And we often get something, sort of like this. The same general position. And it's very similar to the King's Indian attack. However, White's got a different idea instead. Is that he still can play, with castle, knight h4, knight g5, f4. That's still possible. The other thing is that this knight could potentially jump in here to d5. For instance, bishop g5 with the pin, because this bishop can't go back and block it anymore. So d5 is always in the cards. And also possible is knight, not that. That's not a legal move. Knight a4, trying to win this bishop, right? Because again, if this bishop goes away, then the f4, f5 push, comes in really, really quickly. So that's an idea, right? We just sort of compare it to here. Anyway, just an idea. Castles. He played h3, which again, to prevent the eventual knight g5. Then I played h6. I thought about this move for quite a bit of time, wondering, should I play h6, should I not play h6? And in the end, I believe h6 is the right move, even though it might be the reason I lose. Which is an interesting thing to think about, is it not? Why h6? h6 is taking away the g5 square from the to protect my bishop. Because, for instance, if I were to play queen d7 here, attacking the pawn, he can play knight g5. The knight defends the pawn, knight's attacking the bishop, and I'm going to lose the bishop for the knight, and then not good. I didn't like this position. It's just going to be not what I want. By playing h6, I prevent that. I'm also stopping his bishop ever from coming to g5, which means this bishop doesn't seem to have a clear role into the game. The computer agrees that h6 is a good move, possibly even the best move. It has a whole bunch of moves in the same thing. Position's about equal, black's doing fine. h6. This is the move, again, it might be the reason I've lost the game, because it gave my opponent an idea which he executed on. It's actually funny now, because my opponent here, he makes a series of moves which I think are terrible, and yet it's going to lead to my defeat, which is just, can you believe it? He played knight h2. So he's thinking about f4, coming it on here, right? But I'm assuming that's what he's doing. What else could he possibly be doing? Why else would he move his knight back to this strange square? And I'm thinking, I don't like it. My bishop is pinning the pawn, so he's going to have to at least move another, only to get f4 in, right? And all this time, I've got all the time in the world to do my own plan. He doesn't control the center well enough to waste 3 moves, knight h2, king h1, and f4. That's my view. And the computer agrees with me. It's just unfortunate that I didn't play the resulting position correctly. Instead of knight h2, I think what White needs to do in this position is understand that he doesn't control the center, right? Not really. The kingside play is too slow. Queenside play seems to be the best bet here. And this is where I'm looking at b4. I'm looking at b4, I'm looking at a4, I'm looking at advances over here. This is why I said way back when that playing a5 for black could be really useful. It's going to stop White from gaining this permanent space. For instance, if you were to just play, normal moves, okay, boom, boom, normal moves, something like this could happen, right? Normal moves, b5 is coming. We're going to open up lines, right? Maybe c4 and b5, opening up lines. White's got some ideas here, and he's got some initiative on the queen side, right? He at least has ideas of threats. Alternatively, if I were to play a5, b4, knight's got to go somewhere. The computer likes that move, eh? I don't like that move. Let's say knight e7, bishop a3, and now, again, we've got this space on this side. Maybe d4 now makes more sense. Maybe c4, c5, trying to pick away at this pawn. White's got more ideas over here. And what's black going to do? Maybe I try and expand in the center, but again, as soon as I expand the center and this pawn gets exchanged, then this bishop comes to life. So that's sort of one thing I've always got to be, thinking about in this position, right? I think this is best play for white. This is the right idea. This is what the board wants us to do, right? Expand over there. Because I only have pieces, and if you can move your pawns will kick back my pieces. You have, you push me back. At the same time, doing this wouldn't beat me in 10 moves, so what do I know? Knight h2. And so I immediately, I'm going to play queen d7. It attacks the pawn, and what's he going to do? How does he defend it? If he plays h4, he just creates all these weaknesses right here. He plays g4, and I was so incredibly happy when I saw this. Look at these squares. Look at that. Weak, weak, weak. If I can get a piece there, for instance, knight h7, knight g5, I'm laughing, right? If I could force this pawn to come up to g5 some point, I go here to here, I'm laughing. It's just weaknesses all over the place. It also makes it harder for him to play f4. Or playing f4 seems a lot riskier now because all the pawns in front of his king have moved, right? I'm just like, yes! I'm excited. And now, because he advanced randomly, I play d5. Great move. Perhaps the most logical move. The computer has suggested that knight e7 would be an interesting idea instead, where the knight wants to go to g6 and then to one of those two weak squares, which looks absolutely fantastic. And if I would have thought harder at this position, maybe I would have found this. Because again, once I play d5, I open up this bishop, and that, again, it leads to my downfall later on. The computer likes d5, though, and the idea makes perfect sense. After the exchange, just look at these pieces. Like, look at it. He has no piece beyond the second rank. I've got a huge space advantage. My bishops are great. He has one good piece. And if that piece were ever get exchanged, he has holes around his king. Things are looking good. Also notice how I've got f4, f5 coming in now. Ready to punish this g4 move. Right? I've got everything in this position. And it took incredibly imaginative play from my opponent in order to turn this around. Because I'll be honest, I thought this I'm on the fast track to victory here. That's what I thought, because this is the way I think. I think in terms of these general overall ideas, overall plans. When I was, much weaker, even up to around in that 16 to 1800 range, the only thing I thought of was in terms of pure calculation. I go here, he goes there, I go here, he goes there, right? That over and over and over again. And as I've gotten stronger, I've learned to think in sort of, instead of these small little arrows, into big general arrows, right? Is that this is a big weakness. This pawn is weak. I've got space. My pieces are naturally looking sort of here in this area. So this is where I'm going to be wanting to play. White's pieces are cramped and they're unhappy and they can't do anything. This is how I think. This is my thought process. These big generalities. And this is good. This has allowed me to get over 2,000 rating now in online chess, which is fantastic. But at the same time, when I think like this, is that I often overlook some of these small moves. I go here, he goes there, I go here. And that's what happens over the next two moves. He played knight e4. So he brings his knight into the center. I bring my last piece in, rook a d8. Everything looks absolutely fine. And here's the move that changes the game. White plays bishop takes h6. So, bishop takes h6. I'm not going to lie, when I saw this move, I stared at the board for about 30 seconds, not even understanding what was anything, right? It seemed so completely out of left field. And again, I wasn't, I'm not thinking, I go here, he goes there, I go there. So this sacrifice, it didn't even cross my mind at all the entire time. At the same time, before I go any deeper, I need to say that this is not a correct sacrifice. It isn't. I felt it at the time, though I couldn't prove it. I couldn't figure out how to refute it. The idea is, right, is that if you haven't made a mistake, then you can't be losing. Right? Simple. Up till now, I haven't made a mistake. And if you look up to here, like a major mistake. Maybe I made some inaccuracies. Maybe I could have played, more optimally. But none of my moves were an error. And if we back up to here, everything is absolutely perfect for black. I'm amazing. And white isn't, right? He's got these random pawns here. He's got space in his king. His knight is on a terrible square. He's got, one good piece, but it's blocking his other only sort of good piece. Weak pawn here. Black is fully developed. White has two pieces doing nothing. I have a perfectly sound position, and so a desperate sacrifice should not, in principle, work. Right? You have to calculate, obviously, but in principle, it shouldn't. After bishop takes h6, that was my idea, is, okay, it can't work. What's the idea behind it? Again, it took me at least 30 seconds to even think about it. The simple idea is that, well, it's going to be g takes h6, c4, kicks the knight away, and if the knight actually goes somewhere, right, whatever, knight f6, check, wins the queen. That's the tactical idea behind it, all right? And so, a couple options here. Do I take it? Do I not take it? And I'm not going to lie, I spent, 20 minutes analyzing this position. And again, what's amazing is that I played the next few moves almost perfectly, according to the computer. I mean, very, very well, right? But I had such little confidence, because the more I looked at the position, the more it felt like I couldn't refute it. Is I didn't see where the error was. And the problem is that in two positions, I didn't look far enough. Is I should have looked one more move, or I should have evaluated the position better. Now I have to take it. That's really the only thing. If I ignore it, I've simply lost the pawn, right? That's not good. And now he's got the g5 square for his bishop or his knight. And so I need to take it. That has to be the refutation. That's my thought process. So I took it. He played c4. So now what? Incidentally, actually, we can just back up. Instead of bishop takes h6, c4 is a really interesting idea. Let's just put it on the board, right? Because the idea is, okay, knight moves somewhere. The bishop takes h6 sacrifice might work here, but that walks into f5 as well. But I was thinking more along the lines of c5, a6, and we're trying to corral this bishop, right? You've got weaknesses here. You're going to lose this pawn almost certainly, but if you can win a piece, that's pretty good. In fact, the only way black can stop this is to go a vicious counterattack himself. So, for instance, f5, take, we play b4, knight h4. And now we can see what this position is going to devolve into is that, okay, you're going to win this piece. That's great. This pawn's probably going to fall. This pawn is going to fall. I'm going to take this bishop. And now you have no protection in front of your king. In fact, the main threat, of course, would be to take and then take with check, right? The rook lift might also make a lot of sense. Bring the rook in somewhere and then sliding over on the g file. So there's an attack here. Quite an interesting one, right? The computer says black has like a plus 1.5 advantage here. So this attack, this sacrifice is sound. It's working. And it makes sense because white is undeveloped. His pieces are on weird squares. His king's open. Black is fully developed. Every piece is doing something. So we can afford to get rid of something. Idea. Right? So this is probably best play. Anyway, take, c4. And now I need to think of what to do here. And I can't move the knight. In my head, I saw 2 possibilities. Well, that's not true. I saw like 18 possibilities, right? I thought there were 2 candidate moves here. F5 as a counterattack, which lets my rook control the f6 square. Or what I played in the game, queen e7. So my queen controls the f6 square. Again, because this square is absolutely incredibly important. Because that's where the potential check is with the knight. That's all of white's threats here in this position. That's just the way it is. When I looked at f5, I saw that if you were to take the knight right away, this looks very good for me. Because after the bishop takes, the bishop is on this long diagonal. It's going to completely neutralize this bishop. And these variations looked good to me. It's just my pieces are coming in, and I was happy. The problem I saw was that instead of taking the knight, is that it's pawn takes. And so this pawn's attacking the bishop, this pawn's attacking, so I'm going to lose something, right? Then after take, knight d4, I couldn't actually see what to do from here. My king is open. His king is open. I've got a good knight, but it's blocking my bishop. And my knight doesn't really go anywhere anymore. I might be able to win this pawn soon, but is that just going to open up easy g-file for my opponent? For instance, I guess, sorry, it's white's move, so white does something, right? After take, just rook g1, and now he's got the g-file ahead of me, right? Material is equal. This didn't look good. So that's why I went for the other approach. I played queen e7. So that way, after take with the bishop, things look good. My queen controls the square. My bishop, again, is trying to neutralize this bishop. And I don't see anything wrong with black's position. White played king h1, which I thought, again, was an error. Peter says it's fine. I thought the best thing for white to do would be to target this pawn right away. Queen d2. That just seemed to be best play. Trying to get the queen in right away, and then maybe the knight g5 can come in, right? We've got ideas here. This is where I intuitively went to. And interesting, I calculated the following variation. My idea against this wouldn't be to defend passively. King h7 is perfectly possible. That is a good move. The computer thinks it's the best move, actually. But I wanted to do something different, because I felt like if I started just trying to defend this pawn, it seemed as if white would start gaining an advantage, or white would gain an initiative, where I didn't want that. I wanted the counterattack. And so I was thinking this. f5, then after take, yes, he can win a pawn. But now, I take rook d6. And just look what's happened here, is that where's his queen go? It has no squares to stay within the king side, right? The queen has to retreat. So now, once it does, I don't know where it goes, d2, I guess, I've got ideas of one of my major pieces sliding over. We got check here. This bishop is still coming in. Knight can come to d4, right? I'm down a pawn, but I've got all the play. I've got a... Black is doing fantastic in this position. White's pieces are, again, uncoordinated, not very... I've got real chances here. Even though I'm down a pawn, computer says, it's plus 0.5. Oh, yeah, 0.5 for black, right? So this was my idea. I was just think about that. I'm thinking about sacrificing a pawn in this position for play. And yet, a few moves later, for some reason, even though I'm perfectly happy to do this, a few moves later, I'm not. The idea of losing a pawn completely stops me from doing a variation. I don't know why. I don't know why that happened. Well, let's take a look. He played king h1, right? So his idea is, again, he steps out for my bishop. That's great. That gives me time, because he's not offering a threat, right? When he played queen d2, he was threatening a pawn. By playing king h1, he's not doing anything. So that gives me time to improve a piece. Knight jumps into d4. He plays g5, which is, again, he's trying to start an attack, I guess. The problem with this is, well, once a pawn goes there, once the pawn's on g5, and I'm able to take it, now a piece can't come to g5, right? Now a piece can't come to h6. For example, his queen would love to go from d2 to h6. And if I'm given one move, one tempi, where I can play f6 in peace, the position is completely blocked, I'm safe, and my king can even slide away if it had to. So close. I was very confident in this position. I was less confident here, right? I wanted to sacrifice the pawn, and when he didn't go for that, I both thought that he didn't play the best move. I also thought, I don't really know what to do. So I brought the knight in. He played g5. Yeah, I took it. He played rook g1, which is the only idea. And now here's where I start going backwards. Here's where I make the mistake. I played, well, might be thinking, here, can you play better than Smithy? Here we go. Up till now, the first 19 moves of this game, I have played near optimally. Okay, maybe I could have played a5 earlier, maybe I could have done, something else, but every move was good. None of my moves were bad. Okay? No bad moves. What do I do here, though? I was thinking several things. The move I wanted to play, and the move I had calculated way back when, actually, when once he played g5, I really got the idea of this move, was the take. He doesn't want to take with the pawn. If he takes the pawn, obviously he's blocking this bishop. It's going to make it harder for him to the g-file. This knight's amazing. The rook's attacking the queen. Everything is good. Right? I've got my easy advantage. He has to take with the bishop. I want to play f5. If I could get this move in, I've got these three pawns. I'm controlling the e4 square. If his bishop retreats, I simply have a gargantuan position. He can't do anything. Like, where's his play? My pawns control everything. And the g5 square isn't even that weak. The knight can always jump back to e6 to defend this. It's hard for him to attack it more. And I can even push it forward, open up lines. My queen can slide over g. This is really good. This was really good. This is what I wanted to play, and I kept coming back to it. But then I noticed, after f5, he could play bishop takes b7. He could just take a pawn. Whoops. Hello, that's... Bishop takes b7. That's the move. And I stopped calculating right away. I said, this is bad. Do you see that? Do you see the change in my thought process? Back here, when he played queen d2, I was ready and willing to sacrifice a pawn to get to this position, to get an attack going. No problem. Here, where is it? After the exchange, no, don't take the d pawn, that's terrible. Bishop takes. He takes the pawn, and I immediately rejected it. But, well, let's just look. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2... Material is actually equal. I'm not even down material. After knight e6, so my knight retreats. I'm defending this pawn. Look at how terrible... Look at... White has 4 pawn weaknesses. Right? All of his pawns are weak. This rook is hitting this pawn. This bishop's attacking a weak pawn right here. My queen can slide over and attack this pawn. White is, yuck. White's position is ugly. Incredibly ugly. What does white do? I was looking further. Queen h5. Let's look at this. This position. So I managed to fully exchange queens. White is near, he's almost losing positionally, right? The computer is saying it's almost +2 for black, right? Why? Because, again, this pawn is undefended. This pawn is undefended. They're both attacked. This pawn can easily be attacked with a little rook lift. Where does this knight go? It's got no good squares. Where does the bishop go? It's on a great diagonal, I guess, but it's wide open. What can it do there? Nothing. Does it have other squares? Not really. Black is going to win a pawn here. And it's the endgame. He's got a strong positional foundation. He's doing amazing. Why didn't I look at this? Because here, f5, bishop takes b7, and I stopped looking. I said I lost a pawn. And I didn't even lose a pawn. I simply gave back a pawn. Right? Material is equal. I've got a killer position. I didn't go for this. That was my mistake. And it makes me angry. Right? At me for dismissing this line where it looks so good. And instead I tried to play a trap. That's what really makes me upset. I played knight f5. That was what I did. And my idea was that, for instance, if you were to play queen h5 here, I could do something like this, where I take this pawn, and if he takes, I got knight g3 with a fork, and it's actually a smothered mate. That was literally it. That's why I played knight f5. That's not the only reason, honestly. Because after queen g4, which is the correct move, eyeing up on the g file, I wanted to play knight g7. This is my idea. The reason is the knight is blocking the g file, so it's not going to be check. I can always play f6 soon, and there's no checks against my king. And this knight is controlling these important squares, and the pawn is controlling these squares, and it's hard to see how white advances. And the problem is again, I saw this back here. Once he played g5, I calculated until this knight g7 position, and I thought I was safe. I thought white couldn't do something. And in my defense, I was right, except I missed one move, and that one move cost me the game. So, but then, if we think about it, all right, besides just thinking about calculation, we just back up here. My knight started here on c6. Then it goes to d4. Then it goes to f5, g7. Is this a good use of time? I just transfer this knight here to here, whereas white is getting ready to do a kingside attack? What about my plan? I wasn't thinking about my plan. And this is perhaps the big reason for my mistake, is I was thinking about white's plan, about him coming at me. And I couldn't see... I was so focused on that I stopped thinking about how to press harder. And the problem with this is that after knight takes, I thought I could take the pawn here. And then after bishop takes, rook takes, I thought white had to play rook g2. And if he plays this, I then got rook d4, chasing his queen away, and I'm okay. And then I'll eventually win this position. I'll outplay him in the resulting position. That was my thought process. And the computer agrees that if this were white's only option, yes, this would be great. But it's not. I missed a move. Can you see it? White has a checkmate threat. If he can get his queen to go to h7, there's nothing I can do to stop it. I saw that my knight protected here, and my knight protected here. So that stops white's two main ideas. This bishop protects this square, so the queen can't come over here. And so in my head, or when I was visualizing it, I thought that white had nothing. He couldn't do anything, he had to play rook g2. I missed this move. And that's game. That's just it. Checkmate, rook is wide open. And then I played one more move, f5, queen takes d5. I just spent this time just saying, congratulating my opponent, good game. And I've lost. I was trying to see, do I have any potential threats here? Can I create a swindle? But no, it's just, there's nothing here. I'll be lucky if I can create a threat in the resulting position. It's just, it's too strong. Now, before I go on, I gotta make sure, though, that I'm not just making an excuse here. Because again, backing up, I said I simply missed Queen E4, right? Now, if that's all I say, if I simply, oh, I missed a move, I'm not going to get better, right? I got to figure out, why did I not miss that move? Why did I see that I'm controlling this square and this square and this square and not Queen E4? You know, what was the reason behind that? And actually, it's relatively simple. I was looking at queen moves that go forward. I was only looking at forward, forward. And the sideways move, I sort of caught it at the last second. I'm like, oh, what if he does this? Oh, I got a bishop, so I'm okay, right? I never thought about a lateral move to get in. So that was my error. So I need to make sure that if I'm calculating moves, especially where, again, white does have, if he can get to queen h7, that would be checkmate. There's nothing I can do to stop it. So I gotta be very careful. And lateral moves, I need to make sure I watch that. So that's one of the main things I learned from this game. So what was my mistake in this game? Because again, up until here, near perfect. And then what happened is that the best play, I'm up a pawn right now, because white just sacrificed the pawn with that g5 move. g5, take. And so I can return a pawn to get a better position. And 3 moves earlier, I was calculating a variation, which involves sacrificing a pawn to get play. And yet, then I didn't. And if I would have done that, right? If I would have taken bishop takes e4, then f5, right? Bring my knight back. The knight wants to come to f4. The queen can slide over. Rook is pressuring here. Bishop is... I've got a dream position. This is what I love to play. And I didn't do it. That was my mistake. And it's not going to happen again. That's what you have to do with your losses. You have to look at them, find out what was my wrong thought process. And this was it, right? I was thinking correctly almost the entire time. And then I lost one pawn. And somehow that just, it triggered me. There was a flip a switch, and I stopped looking. And so I need to make sure, okay, I lose a pawn in a variation, but hold on. Is it a loss, or is it a sacrifice? Is there compensation? So that's something to look at. So again, I'm SmithyQ, smithyq.com. This is my loss. Again, it's important to learn from your losses. This is why this video is a bit longer than my normal ones. A lot in here. There's a lot. I had to look at this deeply. I needed to make sure my opening moves, the moves I thought were right. And they were. Right? I could have made small improvements, right? But by and large, good, normal moves. And even here, after the sacrifice, right, where I was worried. Did I miss something? Right? That was always in my head. Did I miss something? At the end, when I suddenly lost, right, I'm like, oh shoot, maybe this whole thing, maybe I played wrong the entire time. But no, I played well. It was just, one idea. So again, congratulations to my opponent. Congratulations, Martin. You did fantastic. Good attack, right? And actually, this is actually really an interesting point as well, right? Is that in this position, if white were to do nothing, if he continued playing blasé moves, he's going to lose. Why? Because I'm higher rated, I enjoy these positions, I'm very good at these positions, and I'm just going to slowly grind him down. Bishop takes h6 isn't the best move, but practically speaking, in white's position, I think it's the only move. Because it gave me a chance to go wrong. If he doesn't play this, I'm going to probably win 25 moves, or if I don't win, he's going to have, he has to hold an unpleasant draw, right? That's the best white can do. When he does this, all of a sudden, all 3 results are possible, and it worked in the end, right? So, again, don't be afraid of higher rated players. We make mistakes. I make mistakes, and every time I lose, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to, man up. and I'll make a video every time I lose, and like not a blitz game or something, right? But a long game. If I put serious thought into it, I will do a serious analysis of every loss. Okay. So again, SmithyQ, SmithyQ.com. Like, subscribe if you like doing that stuff. That'd be great. Leave comments. Love feedback. Tell me what you want to see. I got a couple of videos planned in the near future, but I really want to get this one out because, again, you have to learn from your losses. Okay, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.